Hello and welcome back to Nashville on the Rocks. I'm Lisa Karkos, your host, and I'm thrilled to present our second Halloween special. Our guest is none other than Clayton Kidd, the talented vocalist of the Judas Cradle. Not only is Clayton a powerhouse on stage, but he is also a master mixologist, working with various spirits and brands to create some truly amazing cocktails. And let's not forget, he is a horror enthusiast extraordinaire, making him the perfect guest for our Halloween episode. So grab a drink, crank up the volume, and get ready to rock out with us as we dive into all things music, spirits, and horror with Clayton Kidd. Let's kick off this Halloween party and make this Halloween special one to remember. Hey, Clayton, thank you so much for coming on the show. Welcome to Nashville on the Rocks. So for our guests today that are tuning in, we have Clayton Kidd. He is a friend of mine. He is a former coworker, and he is a fantastic mixologist, brand representative, horror enthusiast, metal vocalist. I am so excited to have you today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back. This is our second Halloween episode.
Yes, guys, this is so fantastic because we did a Halloween episode last year and you were episode number 5. And for us, that was like super huge because it was very exciting because I mean, like everybody else that I know, loves Halloween and loves the month of October. And so being that we were here, like doing a Halloween episode for Nashville on the Rocks, you are the best person I could think of. And the fact that we are doing this a second time, man, it's gold.
I love it. It's good.
Great.
Yeah, man, you're like a pioneer here, man. So thank you for coming back, man. And we had such a fun time last time, man. And we're going to be talking about metal, rock and roll music. You and your music loves and your alcohol and your favorite probably Halloween movies, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so you're an OG NOTR fan or a person or alumni.
Yes, that would be correct. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm not used to the acronym Nashville on the Rocks.
Yes, Nashville on the Rocks.
Yes, I like it.
Dan and I try to abbreviate as much as possible because we're always talking about it. So NOTR.
You get a patch on your 5th appearance. Yeah. Sew it on your jacket.
LOL.
Yeah, you get an alumni jacket, alumni varsity jacket.
Right, that's awesome. But no, this is great. I always like coming over here. You guys have an amazing studio here.
Thank you.
This is phenomenal that this is upstairs, and I would be spending all my time here if I lived here. This is awesome. So,
this is what he does.
Yes. I've
so he's always here. So yes, he's got a lot of fun things to play with.
Yeah, I don't leave the house, man. You can come over anytime you want.
Yeah, not really. He doesn't leave the house. I leave the house begrudgingly, but I do. So thank you for coming over. Well, let's kind of dive into this. Okay, so we talked a little bit last time, and I want to kind of touch base a little bit on what we talked about and kind of go on from there. Let's start with the idea of like how we know each other. So we used to bartend, and we worked at Acme downtown for a long time. And then you took a job working for Angel's Envy.
Correct.
And then so you did that for about 4 or 5 years, right?
4 years.
4 years. Yes. Okay. So you were a whiskey guardian, and could you just remind our guests what that is, or for the first time people?
Yeah, of course. It's essentially a brand ambassador role. They just didn't call us brand ambassadors. I would do on and off premise. So I dealt on premise means bars and restaurants. Off premise means liquor stores. I would do on and off premise for the entire state of Tennessee. So you would go in and either do engravings on bottles. If you were in the off-premise, you'd set up samplings, tastings, educate the consumer on the product that might not know exactly what Angel's Envy was. And in the on-premise, very similar to my job now, you would go around and get cocktail menu placements, education, engagements with the staff, set up fun, creative events. I did everything from camping trips to animal rescue benefits to just educating people on what whiskey is, what bourbon is, what's the difference. Mm-hmm. And pretty much discussing that certain brand, because when I was with Angels Envy, I just worked for one brand. Bacardi owned Angels Envy, but I just worked for Angels Envy. So I went around and just kind of spoke on Angels Envy, where my job currently, I get multiple brands to speak about. So.
Sure. And that's my next statement. So after you worked with Angels Envy for such a long time, you're kind of like the middleman in that sense. You're the face of the brand.
Right.
So a lot of people get to know you. You form relationships with people. You get a chance to throw some really good parties and get to know a lot of people. Menu placement is always fun. So for people that don't necessarily maybe know or think about that, that's huge in the spirit industry or the alcohol industry for brands. I always like to say that your bartenders, they're the ones that sell your products.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you can have a great product, but people don't know about it unless you're out there trying. There's so many whiskeys and bourbons, for example, that maybe I just get to talking to a customer about one day. But if it's something that's in the forefront of my mind and I've sampled it and tried it and like it, the chances of me bringing it to a customer is going to be better.
Correct. And most people are going to try something in the on-premise before they buy it in the off-premise. So
that's accurate. Very true.
Most people are going to say, well, let me try this pour of this product I've been seeing at the liquor store for $13, $14 in a restaurant before I commit to the $80 bottle.
Absolutely.
So it's also very important. The on-premise is so important with getting that it translates into the off-premise through that as well. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's such a cool job that you have. And so now after working for Angels Envy for such a long time, now you work for Diageo.
Correct. I work for a company called Enthuse Inspira, which is in partnership with Diageo. So I technically MTHP, which stands for Diageo Hospitality Program.
That's cool.
It's a company that Diageo pays to help support their products. So
sure.
While I do represent and sell Diageo brands, I work for a company called Enthuse. But we represent so many great bands from Kettle One to Mr. Black to Smirnoff, Bullet, George Dickel, Johnny Walker. There's such a variety of brands out there that you get to play around with. So you're not just focused on whiskey. You're not just focused on gin. You're not just focused on rum. Every day is a different...
or tequila.
Every day is a different activation. Every day you're dealing with something different at 65 accounts throughout the city. And it's such a great city to do this job in because, as we all know, everybody loves Nashville. It's a big drinking town. So it's never a dull moment. There's never lack of things to do or activate with around Nashville.
Well, and I think it's important that you brought up the whole idea of activations because the last year I was at Acme downtown, I did activations. So I worked a lot with the liquor brands. I worked with you on several occasions. And basically, I just worked to kind of create events, to host fun events that I thought would be good for our clientele that promoted the brand. So I think that's you have a super cool job. And I think that you have so many recognizable brands. So I'm really excited because you've prepared a couple cocktails for us. And I know we're going to get to that later in the show.
Correct.
But I can't wait to kind of dive into that. So, just welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's great. I'm ready to dive in. All things metal, Halloween. It's such a perfect episode for me to be on because I love everything we're talking about on this episode.
Aside from your bartending, which I know you don't get a chance to do so much anymore because you're on the other side of sales and brand, a recognition. But so you also are the front man for the metal band Judas Cradle.
Correct. And
I love that because when I first met you, you had a bunch of shirts that you were walking around and you were like, I have to get rid of these. I'm selling them or whatever. But I remember I took one and I was like, fuck yeah, Judas Cradle, man. And I ended up just sporting that. I still have it. It's all cut up in my closet, but I wear it from time to time. So you guys have been doing your music for a really long time, if not maybe 20 years?
Yeah, it's kind of right now, kind of off and on. I'm really busy with work. Our drummer Ben has 3 kids. Our bassist lives in Atlanta. He's got kids. So it's definitely not full time. We did just play last year at Sloss Furnace in Birmingham with the Acacia Strain, Darkest Hour. So I never say never that it's done. We still kind of, here I am at 44, still talking about a band I was in that started when I was 22.
That's crazy.
We're just such good friends that it's hard to ever say that we're completely done playing. So I know Nick, one of our guitar players, is still writing new music as we speak. It's just
that's awesome.
It's just at that age where if you're not doing it full time, it's so hard to kind of squeeze into your personal life sometimes, especially with us living in Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. But it is a lot of fun. We put out 3 albums on Eulogy Recordings. We toured tons back in our day. We played your old town, Rochester, a few times.
I feel like I remember that because back in the day, I went to like a show, and it was like when I was super early going into the scene, and they were like, "There's this band from like Alabama," and I mean I could be remembering like another band, but I think it was just the point where I was like, no, I think I'm right on that because I know the shows that I went to at the time. And so I think it's kind of interesting because you definitely made your way in the New York State area.
Of course, yeah. Mm-hmm. We toured with a few bands from that area. We'd always play Syracuse, Poughkeepsie, New York City, obviously, Jersey, that whole area. So we toured a lot. Toured a lot of good bands. Some of the bigger bands like As I Lay Dying, Every Time I Die. We hopped on some tours with them, Bleeding Through. So we were always kind of the opener. Well, never quite much the headline, but it was always fun. And just getting to do that as part of my life is such a cool chapter in my book, and it still continues to this day. Maybe not quite as active as we once were, but it's still so much fun to be in a band with like 4 of your best friends that, you're still in your 40s talking about it.
Well, I think that's the thing is that like having the relationship where you guys can still do that. That's incredible. You know what I mean? Like that's a true testament to like you guys with each other that you want to make some music and have some good times. I think that's great.
Yep. And it's a lot of fun. Who doesn't love playing metal?
Right.
Just getting together and getting to scream and play heavy music, and that genre of music has become so popular now. I feel like we missed our time a little bit.
You think so?
That music now is it's just blowing up. Heavy music is very, very, very much alive and very popular at the moment. Tons of bands. There's tons of bands out of Alabama. So it might not have been us that you heard of, but there were some great bands out of Alabama back in the day, and still to this day. You got bands like Gideon, No Cure, Haste, Judas Cradle, Era. So Alabama has always consistently produced pretty heavy bands. There's a good scene there. There's a good hardcore metal scene in Birmingham. So.
I think that's interesting because I don't know if necessarily people think that. So, I mean, I'm not entirely sure what comes to mind. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the metal scenes kind of stay the same in my mind, but like I feel like new areas or new pockets of areas show up in various times. So I'm always kind of curious about that myself. Let's talk a little bit about your music. So you said that you've been with this band for 22 years. Can you all just remind us again what the Judas Cradle, like how y'all got the name? Because I love that.
Yeah, of course. It was originally called The Common Man, and I'm the second vocalist. The original vocalist left to get married and join the Coast Guard, and I was really good friends with these guys. So I'd been in a few bands before, so I stepped in and kind of took over as vocalist, and then we went from the Common Man to the Judas Cradle, and the Judas Cradle is a medieval torture device. It is essentially a big.
It's creepy as fuck.
It is, yeah. Like, man, the shit we used to do back to each other, like in the day, like it's so like, man, we think we're humans. Like everybody's like, man, we need to treat each other better. I was like, man, think about back in like the 1500s.
You're like, we kind of already do treat each other better. Yeah, what it used to be.
So it's a long post, and it starts out skinny and pointy, and it gets bigger as you sink down on it. And if you were a male, they would put it up your ass. Let's just say it. And put rocks on your feet and arms, so you slowly sink down on the post.
Dude, I would love to see the guy make the show his boss the plans and shit for making it, like, and explaining how it works. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like
we need it's like modern day time. It's like, hey, we need your execution plan due by EOD Friday.
Like one guy, like he thought he could do the job. He got fired because he handed in the blueprint like late and shit.
And it wasn't as torturous as they wanted it to be.
Well, Todd over here has got the Judas Cradle. We're gonna go with Todd's idea. And if you were a female, obviously they would insert it elsewhere. But you slowly would just get kind of stretched out from the inside as you sunk down on the. And it was called the Judas Cradle because they tend to do it to people that betrayed or
the church,
or like
it's very Christian of them.
Yeah, because Judas betrayed Jesus, so that's where it got the name Judas got involved with it. So it typically was for people like not so much that stole or murdered. It was more for like
blasphemy.
Yeah, blasphemy, baby. Yeah, that's great. That's a good word I'm looking for.
That doesn't sound very Christian-like or church-like, but it makes sense with everything.
No, the scary thing is it sounds exactly what the church would come up with, man. Exactly what they would do.
Pretty much.
No, it does. But also, it makes you kind of think that everybody that was in the medieval time was a psychopath. You know what I mean? It's like just the worst of the worst. Like, let's just fucking rip these people apart slowly for hours and watch them suffer.
They were, man, we were raw back then. So
there were some bored ass people back then.
You can still find the albums on Spotify. Never Say Never. I
love it.
We're jamming. Maybe not so much me, but the rest of the guys still jam. They all live in Birmingham and get together. But if you're on Spotify, make sure you're looking up the Judas Cradle, not Judas Cradle. Make sure you put the THE before it. And there's a few albums up there that you can check our stuff out on. So
very cool.
Pretty good. Man. Very heavy. Really cool.
Love it.
Very, very heavy. If you like really heavy music, it's definitely up there. We're very influenced by like In Flames, all kinds of Swedish metal.
Sure.
You know? So Soylent Green, In Flames, those type bands had a big, Poison the Well had a big influence on us. So we mixed a little bit of hardcore and metal. We were all hardcore kids, but we liked metal. So you'll definitely hear the influences of hardcore and metal in both the albums. So,
yeah, like I think that's super cool. I kind of want to know, like I can't remember, how did you get into being into metal in the first place? Is it something you fell into? Like, what did your parents listen to, or did that even matter to you at the time?
No, it didn't matter. I was always kind of being a young kid. I kind of liked like 90s hip hop and like. Maybe if not heavy metal like I'm into now, but definitely like Guns N' Roses, Nirvana, grunge, hard rock, and then it kind of just slowly translated into metal. I discovered the hardcore scene in about 95 at 15 and just fell in love with it, like the community and the way everybody was friends and everybody got along in the true hardcore scene.
Sure.
It's not so much like that now, but back in like the late 90s, mid 90s, it was like you were all a family. And then just trying to get into heavier bands like that, you know, bands like Bane, bands like Poison the Well, Bane, Terror, Buried Alive, Old Victory Records like Hatebreed, Old Hatebreed, Battery, all those type great bands. I slowly just kind of started wanting my music a little heavier and heavier. So I slowly I got into more little new metal, hardcore metal, and then just full blown metal. But I always loved bands like Megadeth, Slayer.
Sure.
You know, but
Pantera.
Pantera, of course, absolutely. Like Pantera. But that's what, like, my love for Pantera is what got me into bands like Lamb of God and stuff like that, because it's just so, Lamb of God's just so heavily influenced by that southern rock metal that bands like Pantera put out. So,
I do love Lamb of God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Pantera is one of my favorite metal bands. So, like, I mean, still to this day of all time, like, I'm just, like, I mean, I feel like they didn't do anything that I considered to be like wrong. Not that I would consider it to be wrong, but I felt like everything they did was just fucking awesome.
Did you get Metallica tickets?
No.
Pantera's opening they're playing 2 nights, May 1st, May 3rd. The first night's Metallica, Pantera, Suicidal Tendencies.
Is that at Bridgestone?
It's at Nissan.
And
then May 3rd is Metallica, Pantera, Limp Bizkit. I'm sorry, it's Metallica, Pantera, Suicidal Tendencies. The May 3rd is Metallica, Limp Bizkit, and Ice Nine Kills.
Ice Nine Kills. Oh my God!
It's 2 nights at Nissan, no repeat, with 2 different openers. So Metallica will not repeat one song through the entire.
Oh shit!
So me and my girlfriend Brandy, we just got 2 tickets. We're like we got to go both nights.
You've got to go.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Dan, we're gonna go, and I've actually never seen Metallica. ever.
You got to go.
I know. And it was like, so I remember like years ago, before I was a Metallica fan, like my best friend her older brother brought her when she was 10 years old to a Metallica concert. And that sucked because for me, it sucked because that was her first fucking concert. And mine was like something ridiculous like Nickelback or something. You know what I mean? So like,
Did
whatever.
you really go to Nickelback?
I did.
Was that your first show?
100%. Yeah. It was kind of like a date. It was like Nickelback, Three Doors Down, and Puddle of Mud.
Was that your first concert? Ever?
My first large concert. Yeah.
Okay.
Like my first major national concert other than like local concerts.
Cool.
Yes. And I think it was like 19. I wasn't allowed to go to shows. I was like, there was like a definite like religious hold in my family that was like, you can't do this. Right. And that just made me want to do it even more, you know?
Absolutely. Is that kind of how you got into metal yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was one of those things where like I had older siblings and they were like definitely into like all the 80s, like, you know, hard rock, like GNR, like, and I remember the first time I ever heard GNR was like, that was it for me. Like there was a light that went off that I didn't have with anything else because I was a little Spice Girl kid at the time. I was like 14. I was listening to like Backstreet Boys and Spice Girls. Like I had no idea. And I remember the first time I listened to like GNR, I was like, my mind just like exploded. And then I just couldn't stop listening. And like no one else in my family, like other than my older brothers, really listened to the heavy stuff. So like I got very used to like 80s rock, 80s metal, like 80s glam rock. That I knew. And like the heavier stuff was just like another level where I was like, this is something. And then I mean, I'm a 90s kid. So like Korn, like Marilyn Manson, you know, like all of that. But it was kind of like, you know, it was there and it was here. And so I remember that was like the first thing for me that really like, I was like, this is it. This is fucking awesome.
That first Korn album with the girl on the swing set was phenomenal.
Awesome.
Still is. And the first Marilyn Manson record, Portrait of an American Family, is still to this day, in my opinion, his best record. Antichrist Superstar was good, but Portrait of an American Family was definitely an amazing, amazing record. And that's when Marilyn Manson was all shock rock.
Yep.
You know?
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. And I think that like being a kid at the time and like not completely understanding like how good the albums were because you're just going and, you know, you're just, it's just happening to you and you're going along with it, you know, like looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, that was pretty fucking cool, you know.
I was listening to Smells Like Teen Spirit and Lithium on the way over here from Nirvana's Nevermind. And who would have thought that when that album came out, you're like, man, I'm still going to be listening to this album at 44 years old.
Right.
Like,
25 years,
that.
no, 30 years from now.
When you're listening to it at that age, you're just
don't
like,
know.
it's a good song. I love Nirvana.
Exactly.
Like, they changed the whole game, in my opinion. But you just didn't realize, man, when you first heard Smells Like Teen Spirit, it changed your whole world. And to be like, I'm still listening to that at 44
Dude, no, it's really
years
strange.
old.
So like when that record first came out, I was with my brother Andre. And he called it, man. He's like, dude, this band's going to be a classic band.
Yep.
Fucking first time he heard it, man. He's like, this band is classic rock already. Timeless songs. Like my brother's like he was really prolific songwriter back in the day. And he was like into like just different shit and arrangements and seeing what Kurt was doing. He kind of called it. But I fucking love that record, man.
It's a great album. It'll live longer than I will, that's for sure.
Yeah,
So.
killer stuff, man.
Well, no, and I think that's the thing is that like you don't realize that at the time. So I think we're fortunate that we kind of went through it and we saw that it was great, but we had no idea like the impact that like, you know, unless you're someone like every so often you get a person, it's like, oh, this is going to last, you know, forever. And that just shows like there's still really good music now. And obviously like the music scene has changed and, you know, the music business has changed and how we like listen to music and everything. But there's still really, really fucking good bands out there, you know, and like we were talking about this before is that you're listening to it. You have a couple of bands that you're listening to now that you really dig. And one of them is Bad Omens.
Bad Omens, yes.
Yeah.
I've gotten really, I'd kind of always knew who they were and kind of knew the name, but I saw them at a festival two or 3 years ago called Louder Than Life in Kentucky. And I remember them standing out and going, I'm surprised I hadn't listened to that more. And I just kind of started listening to them and fell in love with them.
Sure.
I'm probably not the newest when it comes to knowing who Bad Omens was. But once I heard them, I was like, oh, this band's fantastic. So Bad Omens is one of them. I don't know if you're familiar with them or if you've heard.
Yeah, no, I have. I've
great.
checked them out. Like they are really good. Like I've dug everything that I've heard so far.
They're on our old booking agent's label.
Oh,
so
okay.
when we were in the Judas Cradle, it's still our booking agent was Ash Alvinson, who now owns Sumerian Records.
Oh shit! Okay.
So that's the label that Bad Omens is on. Black Veil Brides, Bad Omens.
Okay.
They're all on Sumerian, and Ash Alvinson, our old booking agent, is the owner of
Oh,
that
right
record
on.
label. So kind of small world kind of thing,
That is
6
a small
degrees
world.
of separation at least, So.
Exactly. Even though it's in Alabama, people
Yeah.
say that Nashville's 6 degrees of separation or less. But there was another band. You said it was Angel
Maker.
I'm not familiar with them.
I wasn't either, and I was riding in my car, and I listen to a lot of XM radio as well. And Jose Megan has a great show on.
Oh my god, I love him.
He's awesome.
He's so funny.
It was either Octane or Liquid Metals. He does both. It might have been Liquid Metal, and they were playing Angel Maker one day. I was like, "Who's this band?" And that's what I love about XM radio, because if it's on my phone or my Spotify, I'll listen to the same bands over and over, which is great.
Yeah.
I like
Same.
XM radio because it makes me branch out and be like, "Oh, who's this band?"
Same.
And I've discovered so many new bands. Bad Omens was a little bit of that too, and I've discovered so many bands through that. And I heard Angel Maker. I was like, "This band is absolutely fantastic."
So give me a brief overview. Like, are they metal? Or are they like new metal? Or what?
Definitely metal. Maybe even shreds of like death metal.
Okay.
A little bit death metal, heavy metal.
I guess it sounds like it would be a death metal band. Angel Maker.
Yeah, they're pretty heavy. Bad Omens is a little more kind of like Bring Me the Horizon
Sure.
of Mice and Men. A little, I don't know what we're classifying that metal as now. There's so many different types of metal now, but
Fair.
But Angel Maker is definitely more on like the speed metal, black metal, dark or like heavy metal, like it's got a little bit of everything. It's got a little bit. You can even hear hardcore in it because there's gang vocals,
Okay.
stuff like that. Always makes me think of like hardcore influence when people insert
For
gang
sure.
vocals into stuff. And I've really been rocking this other band from England called Architects.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of them.
Yes,
as well, so.
I do know who they are. I've only heard a couple of songs, but I've been digging it. And I also do the same thing. Like I kind of listen to the same thing over again, but I try to listen to any kind of serious like channels, because I think that's how I got into like Sleep Theory.
Yeah. Sleep Theory is great.
Yeah, they're great. And I remember like I didn't know anything about them until I was like listening to like Shannon Guns or something like that, and they had played it, and I was like, okay, like, but because you just get into a pattern.
There's also a band called Sleep Token, who's awesome as well. Yeah.
Yes, Sleep Token's great too.
My favorite band probably at the moment, probably the rest of my life, will be Ghost. I didn't want to say that because like
it's fine.
Ghost is great. We all know that. But anybody that knows me knows I like Ghost. So I was trying to mention a few other bands outside them, but Ghost is probably my all-time favorite. Right now.
I love Ghost.
I think I've seen them 8 times now already.
Jesus, I've only seen them 3. Well, I mean, 3 is a lot for me, but in
Right.
comparison to 8, that's not a lot.
Did you see the movie they just put out?
No.
They released like this 2-hour movie, and it was like a lot of live footage.
Okay.
Of a show in LA, but in between the live footage, they made a little bit of a movie out of it. It would show Papa Emeritus go in the back dressing room and have a conversation with spirits. And I don't want to give away too much to anybody that hasn't seen it, but if you haven't seen the Ghost movie, I forget what it was called. It's phenomenal. It's brand new. It came out in 2024. It's just look up movie Ghost. I mean, actually, that'll be a bunch of movies would pop up with that. But the band Ghost, a movie, it's like mostly live footage, but there is like a story behind it.
Okay.
And it ends on a cliffhanger. So I don't want to give it away to somebody that hasn't seen it. But
Fair. That's fair.
Just if you're a fan of Ghost, make sure you watch that movie. It's fantastic.
Let's kind of segue into going back into circling around to like the spirit realm. So the fun thing is that you're going to make a cocktail for us. And I mean, but like you brought also a couple of different types of alcohol for us today. Yep. And I kind of want you to like maybe do just a little bit of an overview of what you brought.
Sure.
Like, would that be cool?
Absolutely. So with working for Diageo, we represent, I think I named some of the brands, but so many different brands in our portfolio. Being from Tennessee and this show taking place in Tennessee, I wanted to bring some Tennessee whiskeys we don't necessarily have to try them, but I wanted to talk about them.
No, hell yes. And like, I have to say that your job is like really fun too, because you're very sociable and like you're really good with people, and like it's something different every day.
It is.
You know what I mean? And that's cool.
Did, like this last week, I just had a regional educator in town from Tampa. We did 2 agave workshops.
Oh, nice.
So he got up there and we educated everybody from trade to the customer to distributors on everything from Don Julio, which is one of the tequilas we represent, to Astral, to Mezcal, to Sotol. And it wasn't just tequila and mezcal. It was all things agave.
Okay.
So we sampled so many agave products, went through the history, the fermentation, the distillation process of what makes agave, how it's made, the rules behind it. And then afterwards, we had a make-your-own salt kit. So I had a bunch of different salts, from like chocolate salt to Nashville hot chicken seasoning.
That's cool.
Limes, like chili lime salt, applewood smoked salt, and you got to make your own salt kit and take it home with you. And then we taught the class also how to clarify a margarita in the process of what goes into clarifying a margarita. So you're not just learning about agave, you're not just learning about tequila and mezcal, you're actually getting a hands-on approach. But I wanted today to bring some George Dickel, which is a Tennessee whiskey out of Tullahoma, Tennessee, which is about 76 miles down 24 from here.
Which I have never been to, so this is kind of fun for me. Even though like George Dickel's been around forever, I feel like, you know.
Our master distiller, Nicole Austin, she took over in 2017 or 18, I believe. Don't quote me too much on that, but I believe that was somewhere
master
around there.
distiller.
Yeah,
I love that.
She's great. She's a world of knowledge. She came from Tullamore
Okay.
Over in Ireland. So
is she Irish?
No, she's not Irish. So
okay.
I don't know her.
I was just curious.
No, but that's a fair question.
Yeah.
Coming from Tullamore. No.
Sure.
She's definitely not. But she's a world of knowledge. She's great. She tried this. We've got right here is the white corn whiskey.
Okay.
And what made her fall in love with George Dickel, she tried this by itself. And she's like, if this product is this good by itself, imagine what I can do. If it's this good coming out as corn whiskey, imagine what I can do with this product. So what I really brought this for, though, was this is a great hands-on tool. Okay. The white whiskey, you kind of pour a little bit in your hands, and as it's in your hands, if you rub your hands together, you just got to get that friction there, get some heat going. Yeah. And then you really smell your hands. You really get all the flavors of the corn, the rye, the barley that goes into making George Dickel. So
yeah, this is 91 proof. Why don't you just tell everybody what is white whiskey?
It's essentially corn whiskey. Is what that is all whiskey. It gets its color and its flavor from going into the barrel. So that is essentially corn whiskey before we have aged it whatsoever.
Got it. So it's coming straight out of the barrel.
No, coming straight out of the column still.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
It would still be charcoal filtered, which is what Tennessee whiskey does. The Lincoln County process is a charcoal filtering process, which is kind of what separates Tennessee whiskey from bourbon. Yep. Obviously, it has to be made in Tennessee, but Tennessee whiskey tends to use the Lincoln County process, which is charcoal filtering with their whiskeys. So
I'll follow your lead.
Yeah, most whiskeys and bourbons get all their flavoring notes and profile and color from going into a barrel. Yes. That is what makes whiskey and bourbon brown and gives it that brown color. They do it also with tequila repos, tequila añejos. Just like a tequila has a blanco, this is essentially that. It's just unaged whiskey that hasn't been in a barrel. So
sure, and I don't think that like people. Well, I mean, it depends if you're looking for it, but I think that the mass public doesn't really see too much of the white whiskey.
No, and that George Dickel's pretty hard to find. We had some in our warehouse, so I wanted to bring it and try, and just kind of let you if you really just kind of get that rubbing around and get some heat going in there.
This is kind of fun. I've never done this before.
Yeah, now kind of smell it, and you're going to get like that butter, that popcorn, that corn. You get that really, really strong corn.
It's totally buttered popcorn.
Yeah, you smell that. You kind of get that from rubbing your hands around. I don't want to say hand sanitizer because that definitely doesn't.
That's a different.
It's different, but
that's an alcoholic.
To anybody that's listening and can't smell it, it does have a little bit of that astringent
The astringent I can definitely see, but the popcorn, especially when you said buttered popcorn, that is very pronounced.
Yeah, you smell it. So it really helps when you kind of rub that together. That's really why I wanted to bring the corn whiskey. It's just kind of, that's great to do. You could do it with this. It's more pronounced when you do it with your white whiskey.
No, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I have never tried this before. I think the only thing I've ever tried was the Buffalo Trace, like do you know what I'm talking about? The White Dog or something like that?
It's very similar. That's very similar to what they do with the White Dog. So.
Yep, and I didn't even remember if that was really the case, but I think that was it. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So if you were going to make
it's 91 proof.
So if you were going to make a cocktail with that, or how would you what would you tell people to, if they wanted to try that? Try it by itself, or
there's some places that could do cocktails with it. We just did it's not my account, but the Fox Bar and Cocktail Club just did a cocktail with the corn whiskey.
Okay.
And you don't see it too much. It can be a little overpowering. But I think it'd be cool. Like there is a Mojo's Tacos out in Franklin has a George Dickel margarita on the menu, and it sounds weird, but it's awesome. I think that would go really well, and like essentially kind of like a margarita. You could do tons with it. I typically use it for education purposes.
Okay, just to kind of give people an idea.
Just to kind of show people an idea of this is before it goes in the barrel. What we just did with the hands. You say, hey, dump some of this in your hands, rub it together, smell it. Like, and move,
and just to get the idea. Do you mind if we give a little bit of that to Dan?
Not at all.
Babe, you want to try a little bit of this?
So
you got to just pour a little bit into your palm and just kind of really mix it around.
Get that friction going and get that heat going. And you'll smell your hands, and you're going to get like a strong buttered popcorn. It's really all the grains. Whiskey is predominantly corn, rye, and barley. You can always add wheat. There are other forms of it, but typically you've got corn, rye, and barley.
Sure.
And your corn is always your main ingredient with bourbon. You got to be at least 51% corn to be considered bourbon.
Sure.
So corn's going to be a little more pronounced in that, especially being corn whiskey. But and
really
barley,
doing it.
Barley is essentially in there to aid in fermentation. Okay. You're not really going to taste. You're going to get a lot of corn and rye out of bourbon and whiskeys. The barley's kind of there. It interacts with the yeast and causes a fermentation.
I wonder
which is why barley is added to whiskey.
Well, speaking of, I'm going to have a little candy corn right now.
Yeah.
Let's see what that works.
Speaking of corn.
Speaking of
Halloween candy corn.
Here you go.
I want y'all to kind of if you're watching this or you're listening to us in the comments. Do you like candy corn or do you not? And if you don't, why you be hating on candy corn? Like, it's one of the best Halloween candies. Just gonna say that out there.
That's a lie.
Not a lie. It's for real. Okay, so what do we got next?
Just like with corn, with bourbon had to be 51% corn. This is George Dickel's rye whiskey. To be rye whiskey, you must be at least 51% rye, and that's the big difference between rye and bourbon.
Sure.
It's all whiskey, Scotch, Japanese, Canadian, it's all whiskey. But to be bourbon, there's a certain set of rules that you have to abide by to be bourbon. To be rye, just like you have to be 51% corn, you must be at least 51% rye to be considered rye whiskey. That's why you can't be bourbon and rye.
Sure.
So ours is 95% rye and 5% malted barley. There's no corn in our rye whiskey whatsoever.
Okay.
So 95.5 is our mash bill.
So is this the type, I'm going to smell this right now. Do you think, because with rye, a lot of rye that I try, like sometimes I feel like I'm smacked in the face with it.
Yeah, rye is typically a spicier grain. Think about cornbread. And how cornbread's got that sweet, buttery kind of flavor to it when you bite into a piece of cornbread. It's sweet, it's buttery, it's rich. Think about rye like a Reuben sandwich. You bite into that Reuben, you get those different grains, like more of a spicier grain.
I could see that.
And that's why rye whiskey. That's why rye whiskey can smack you in the face and be a little hot and spicier. I typically like ryes a little better. I'm not hell-bent on them. I like rye and bourbon the same, but I find myself drinking a little more rye whiskeys than I do bourbons.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, it's hard. I got my tongue twisted up talking about it.
Well, and I think that's it smells really, really nice. I'm always a little skeptical of ryes, depending on, but I always want to try them because I always want to know, what they're good. Okay, so what do we got here? We got the bottled in bond. bonds.
And finally, bottled in bond. This not this year. This is last year's.
Okay.
They're up to 5 years now. This is the fourth, but the original one won Whiskey of the Year about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
So this is a bottled and bond whiskey, and just like bourbon and rye whiskey, there are rules and laws to be considered bottled and bond.
Okay.
E.H. Taylor back in 1897 was the one that created the Bottled and Bond Act. And
Okay.
he was aging bourbon and aging whiskey the way you should have been, legally, making a steady, amazing product. And he stepped in because people were putting dirt, leaves, tobacco spit, anything they could into whiskey to add that color. Because they wanted to sell it. They didn't want to have to wait to sell it.
Yeah.
They were like, we want to make money
They don't want to
today.
drink the tobacco spit, but they want to add to
They
it.
want to add the color
That's
and leaves
gross.
and dirt. And so people were getting sick drinking the swill. So E.H. Taylor stepped in and was like, he had the government involved. So when you saw bottled and bond on a bottle of whiskey, you knew you were getting a legit product.
Fair.
That's kind of where the whole Bottled and Bond Act came from. It was in 1897. There's a Bottled and Bond Day. I believe it's March 3rd. Nobody quote me on this. I think it's like March 3rd, March 5th. It's somewhere around there, the first week of March.
We're going to celebrate that. We're going to
yeah.
look it up and celebrate it.
So, and it's just different rules. Like it must be aged at least 4 years. It has
Okay.
to be in a government bonded warehouse. It has to be from the same distillery, the same distillation year.
Mm-hmm.
And most whiskeys now come in a glass bottle, but I think even when Bottled and Bond first came out, you couldn't have it in a plastic bottle. It had to be in a glass
Had to
bottle.
be in glass.
So it really, nowadays, you get in a good product, but everything's so regulated nowadays, it's quite not needed. But Bottled and Bond was back in the day. It let you know that you were getting a legit bottle of whiskey, and E.H. Taylor was responsible for it. So another fun tidbit: do you know why they started burning the inside of a barrel to make whiskey? Do you know where that originally came from?
No, I don't think so.
It's I believe it was Elijah Craig. He was a pastor.
Okay.
And he did it to disguise pickles. They would transport whiskey in old pickle barrels,
Oh, shit.
and he would dump his product in there, and it would taste like pickles by the time it got there. Because just like you do with alcohol nowadays, you can put whiskey in like a Scotch barrel or a cognac barrel or a rum barrel, and it takes some of those flavor profiles from the wood
Sure.
sitting in there. It soaks up what previously was in that barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine that with like fish. Imagine it was a barrel of fish or pickles, and you're putting your product in there, and it's getting there. and
It's just
people are
ruining
like,
it.
Ruining it. So he started burning the inside of barrels to get rid of the old smells of stuff that were in there.
So did that work? I guess.
Yeah, I think, I'm not a total history buff on this, but from my understanding, that's where the history of burning the barrels. And then they realized once they started doing that, it also added all these colors and all these different flavor. It added, you're getting your caramel, you're getting your sweetness, your butter, your vanilla, all that from the burnt wood, all those sugars.
Kind of opens it all up again.
Yeah,
It starts
opens
fresh.
it all up, starts it fresh, and you're getting all those sugars from burnt wood.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you do different whiskeys in like French oak, Mongolian oak. You see all
Sure.
kinds of oak, Amburana cask, because
Mm-hmm.
Amburana's got like that snickerdoodle type flavor.
Oh, I love
so
it.
when you put whiskey in like one of those casks, it soaks up some of those like flavorings that would come out. Like Amburana's got like a sugar cookie flavor
Sure.
profile that comes into the whiskey, because anything that was in the barrel previously is going to soak into that whiskey.
Oh, I love that.
Once they started burning the barrels, they're like, oh, we're getting all these flavor notes from all this burnt wood.
We're starting over. I think because I didn't know that part of it, and that's really interesting, but that makes a lot of sense because pickle juice is so overpowering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So something like that, or a very strong, oily flavor to it, that's going to really turn your juice.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
And one more thing about bottled and bond is it has to be 100 proof as well. That's another rule to bottle. Can't be 99 proof. Can't be 101 proof. Another rule to bottle and bond is it has to be 100 proof. When
It has to be 100 proof.
Yeah, it's 4 years.
I did not
100
know
proof,
that.
Same distillation, same distillery, same distillation season, federally bonded warehouse. So
See, guys, I'm learning everything all the time too. I'm always learning something.
that's what's great about the show. It's music, it's education. I always try and bring some sort of education.
I love
here.
that.
I like talking about the products and what I do for a living. I think it's all, anywhere I go, I feel like I'm always down to talk products.
Sure.
I'm always down to sit next to somebody at a bar and talk to them about Don Julio, agave, talk to them about Scotch, talk to them about, unlike an age statement, bourbon doesn't have to have an age statement. You can age bourbon a year. Now, when you start getting into 2-3 years, you have to label like Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey.
I see.
Those are those once you start aging spirits. But technically, you could throw whiskey in a barrel for 1 minute and technically call it bourbon because it's technically touched wood. Now, Scotch has to be aged at least 3 years.
Yeah.
So, so, and like single malt has to be 100% malted barley at that point. So there's different rules to Scotch. There's different rules to Japanese whiskey. There's different rules to bourbon, Tennessee whiskey. So it's always great to educate people on products. But like to be Scotch, you have to be 3 years. You don't have to age whiskey or bourbon for a minimum whatsoever.
That's right, and I forget about that. And you and I had talked about this like briefly. It was a long time ago when you were saying they were like there's just so much. There's so much out there. Like you can't possibly know all of it. You're always kind of learning.
Of course.
And especially as new products come along and people are trying new things and they're getting creative with it, and they're kind of pushing boundaries. So why don't we go ahead? I think this is a good time for us to take a break, and we'll get together some of the tools and setup for this next part, and you're going to make us a cocktail.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'm so excited about this.
Cool.
All right.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Tony Harnell here from TNT. You are listening to or watching Nashville on the Rocks.
All right, so cool. We are back and we have everything together. And now, Clayton, I'm going to turn everything over to you so you can walk us through this cocktail.
All right, this is a reverse Manhattan. First of all, a Manhattan is a spirit-forward cocktail, obviously coming from New York City. It is typically 2 ounces of bourbon, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, and 2 dashes of Angos bitters, but there's so many riffs and varieties you can do on a Manhattan. And the history behind it is, if you notice, the ingredients were 212, 2 ounces, 1 ounce is 2 dashes. That's the area code for Manhattan. So that is where the specs came from. The bartender that created it wanted to pay tribute to Manhattan, so that's where he got the specs, the 212, to come from.
Okay.
Now, some people do it with 4 dashes of bitters, 2 dashes of orange. There are tons of different variations to make a Manhattan. I still stick it to the tried and true. Now with the reverse Manhattan, this offers a little low ABV option. So I did 2 ounces of sweet vermouth, 1 ounce of bourbon, 2 dashes of orange bitters.
Okay, cool.
So it keeps the vermouth as the spirit forward in this cocktail. Vermouth is a little more low ABV than what we're using with Bullet Bourbon right now. So this is what makes it a reverse Manhattan. It's just more vermouth than bourbon.
Nice.
But typically it's bourbon, vermouth, bitters. This one's going to be bitters, bourbon. Vermouth, bourbon, bitters.
And I've never tried this actually.
Yeah, it's just an offer. It's I do it a lot. My job keeps me out at bars a lot. You don't always feel like drinking heavy because you kind of do it for a living. I love it, but it's just a way for me to obviously keep myself in check when I'm out drinking. And hey, let's do lower ABV options. Yep. And then I even do non-alcoholic options with stuff like Seedlip. So I did use Bullet Bourbon in this cocktail. As you know, it's the rules behind bourbon must be at least 51% corn. It must be made in America. Some people think bourbon all has to come from Kentucky. Only 95% of it, 95% of it comes from Kentucky, but bourbon can be made anywhere in the country. Even George Dickel has an 8-year bourbon. So
that's awesome.
I went ahead and batched this out. That way we don't make a mess up here. I did not dilute it though. So what I'm going to do, you want to add a little dilution to your cocktails. So I am going to add a few pieces of ice.
Sure.
Just to dilute this cocktail a little bit. And we're going to be serving it on the rocks. So as you're sitting here drinking it, sipping on it, it's going to have ice added to it. It's going to slowly get watered down as you sip on it. But that's kind of how I like my Manhattans. I like to stir it for about 10 to 12 seconds, get a little nice dilution going in there. And
that's a pretty cool spoon.
Yeah, I also brought this smoke top, which some cocktails you can smoke and you can add different flavor profiles to them. This is a cherry wood smoked. So what I like to do with this, it adds so much more to your palate and to your nose when you actually pick it up and drink it. A Manhattan is meant to be brought up to your mouth. Obviously, you're not drinking a Manhattan with a straw. So what it is as you're drinking this cocktail, you're going to get all the flavor notes of the smoke that was in the glass as well. So
that's fucking awesome. And
So
I
there
have
you
to
go.
say that last year you made us a smoked Manhattan, but what did you, it was a banana chip. Do you remember what it was?
I did a banana old fashioned last year, and I smoked it with apple chips.
God, and this smells so good.
Yeah. And also, like, if you're out at a bar, any bartenders listening, this is a great way to sell your cocktails too. You can forgive me, some of the ash is getting into this drink.
No, it's cool. It's all good.
And as you're making these at your bar, one, just for the image alone, people are going to want to know what you're doing there. And two, it gives the aroma around the bar and the restaurant.
It's
where people
fantastic.
People are like, what's that smelling? You know, what's that I'm smelling? And it draws more attention to the cocktail, to the drink. Look how amazing that's very Halloweenish.
It's a little fog.
It's like a haunted, it's a haunted swamp. You know? But you know, people are you can smell it around this room right now.
Yeah.
So if you're at a bar and you imagine seeing your bartenders doing that, and then you get that aroma, you're probably going to order one of these. Just out of
I
curiosity,
would,
you know?
100%.
We as bartenders have seen it. You know, it might not be that amazing to us, but to your average Joe that doesn't get out and about a lot,
Or doesn't have a smoker at
yeah,
home.
to have a smoker, they think it's the coolest thing ever. So
Cheers.
Yes.
Babe, you get to try this after, okay? This is a reverse Manhattan smoked.
Now, as you're putting it to your nose, not only drinking it, you get it on your palate, but
Yeah.
you're breathing in through your nose, so it adds such a different sensory. It's such a different way on your senses to taste the product, because you're also
100%.
incorporating the cherry or apple chips into it. There's also maple chips. You can use so many different wood chips to do this with.
It makes me want to go out and have a fire right now and drink one of these by the fire.
It smells delicious.
It does. So that's a reverse Manhattan.
Oh, this is nice.
It's nice. It's easy. It's very easy to sip on. Now,
Super easy.
once again, it's usually a little heavier, with it being 2 ounces of bourbon, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth. This is 2 ounces.
I think
of
I
sweet
prefer
vermouth.
this. What
Yes.
is the vermouth that you used?
I used Dolan in this vermouth.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The sweet vermouth, right?
Sweet vermouth. Yes, I didn't know if you meant the brand. Yeah, there's sweet,
I did, but
sweet
yes.
and dry vermouth. Now, if you did a mixture of sweet and dry, that's a
like a perfect Manhattan.
perfect Manhattan, perfect martini. Now you can use dry vermouth. There's different variations on it.
Yeah. Well, I think
but-
the Dolan did a nice job there. That was good.
But yes, I should have specified.
It
Sweet
reminds me
vermouth.
of like when you cook marshmallows and shit. Right?
Yeah,
I could see that.
it's great.
Oh my god, it's amazing.
I definitely have the apple, like the taste of the apple. It doesn't smell like apple to me, but the taste of the apple is nice. Really nice there.
So now with this drink, let me add some more ice and get this one going. Now that was with Bullet.
Should I rinse this out, the glass?
Yeah, if you want
Okay.
to. that'd
Yeah,
be
I got
great.
it. We'll pause this real quick. I'll rinse this out and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is looks like to be our second cocktail here. So this is actually a lot darker. Why don't you tell everybody what we have in this right now?
This is an amazing Australian product that is in my portfolio. It is a coffee liqueur called Mr. Black. If you're familiar with coffee liqueurs, this one's phenomenal. It's made with Australian wheat vodka and 100% Arabic coffee beans.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So not only is it a far superior product than most of your other coffee liqueurs on the market, it's actually made with coffee beans, nothing artificially flavored.
I love it.
Yeah, they do a lot of farm to glass with this. So, and this is a Revolver. So this is a take on a Manhattan.
Love it.
Now, what a Revolver is just like the Manhattan was bourbon, sweet vermouth, bitters. This is bourbon, coffee liqueur, and bitters.
Okay.
I went ahead and played around and had extra fun and added some sweet vermouth to this as well.
All right.
So we're actually doing a Revolver with a little bit actually sweet vermouth in it.
So it's not really like a reverse Revolver Manhattan. It's kind of like just a Revolver, like little comma.
Yeah, this
Sweet vermouthy.
I just wanted to add the vermouth. I kind of wanted to use it, and I figured it was just us, and we could just play around.
I
with
love it.
So this is going to be going back to the George Dickel Bottled and Bond. This is George Dickel Bottled and Bond. 2 ounces, 1 ounce of Mr. Black coffee liqueur,
Okay.
a half ounce of sweet vermouth, and I did 2 dashes of orange bitters.
Oh, nice.
So we can also smoke this. I loaded this time up with cherry wood. So we'll actually use a little bit of cherry wood in this cocktail.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
And we'll actually do a little bit of some orange peel in it as well.
Okay.
So.
Super cool.
Sounds fancy, man.
Fancy schmancy.
So we'll make this out. And what you want to do is kind of, this has orange bitters in it, but this always gets
the
a
orange
little.
Peel.
Yeah, the orange peel zest gets a little bit of that zest in there. You get a lot of that fresh flavor. Once again, when you're taking it up to your mouth and drinking it, you're going to get all those flavor notes that are in the bourbon, that are in the coffee liqueur.
Sure.
But as you take it up, like you'll notice it. Take that, and now you'll smell the coffee with that orange as you're drinking it.
Oh, it's wonderful.
It's fantastic. I think actually on this one though, now that I'm talking about it, I actually used a chicory and chocolate bitters in this cocktail.
Oh yeah.
So this is actually made with a chicory coffee bitters.
That's cool.
So,
and should I take a sip of this now, or do you want to smoke it first?
We can also smoke it if you want.
Yeah, let's fucking smoke it.
Didn't know if you wanted to smoke both the cocktails, but you kind of try it before and after.
I mean, that's delicious.
Yes. So this one's cherry wood with chicory and chocolate bitters. Mr. Black, George Dickel, Bottled and Bond, and Sweet Vermouth.
And I taste the chocolate and chicory bitters.
Yes, it's fantastic.
Very strong. Like, I mean, just on the end of the drink, for sure.
So once again, you're getting all those flavor, you're getting all those aromas in the room, not just in the cocktail. Mm-hmm. So as a bar manager, bartender, it's a great way to sell your cocktails, just from the visual and the aroma standpoint.
It's amazing. It looks so good.
Yeah.
Very Halloween-y.
Very Halloween. You could even, for Halloween, I did a take on a zombie.
Okay.
Obviously Halloween, and what I did is I used mezcal, and mezcal's made in the Oaxacan region of Mexico, so I call it the Oaxacan Dead.
No.
And it was such a great play.
Oh, that's a good
The
one, dude.
Oaxacan Dead.
Yeah, it was a take on a zombie.
Yep.
And I did it with mezcal, so hence I could incorporate Oaxacan into it.
Yep.
And it was obviously the Walking Dead, the Oaxacan Dead.
Oh, that's so
You could
cool.
even do fun Halloween drinks like that. Like right now, you could have easily stuck like a fake eyeball in there, and it would have looked like an eyeball, like floating and like,
Right.
So
oh my God.
help yourself, whichever one
Okay.
you'd like. But you're going to notice, you're going to get the aroma of that fresh orange. You're going to get that coffee liqueur, and you're going to get that cherry wood smoke.
Smoking.
So
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Thank
cheers.
you so much. This is so pro. I love it.
It smells so good in the studio. It's pretty amazing.
So, yes.
Babe, you want to try this, babe? You're sitting over there like
No, I don't want
all
to.
sad?
Of course I want to try it, babe.
So that coffee liqueur is far superior. I'm not in the business of. I never talk about other brands, but from some other coffee liqueurs that are on the market, Mr. Black is going to be a little more pricier. But you're gonna notice immediately the difference in the quality of product with Mr. Black. So
No, I second that. So I've used Mr. Black and mostly espresso martinis and variations of
That's
that.
incredible. Sorry to
Yeah.
interject,
Yeah, no,
but
it's
man,
No,
it's
you're-
glad you
so
enjoy it.
good.
You're fine. And I've used a couple of other like different coffee liqueurs, but like I think that's a standalone product.
it is.
Yeah.
And it's also great in like revolvers, espresso martinis, mighty racers, white
You bet.
Russians, Colorado Bulldogs. And I've kind of got accounts having it to almost turned it into like little black bumps is what we like to call it.
Okay.
Just little like Mr. Black
Shooters.
is low ABV, so it's
Yeah.
like, man, you're out shooting one night, but you're not trying to.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get weird. I got to work in the morning.
Yep,
I want to
you got a long
celebrate.
day.
Yeah, I want to celebrate with you guys, and everybody knows shots are very camaraderie. You know, sometimes you just do them just to be part of it.
Yep.
So it's a great way for me to like, hey, I want to participate. Let me do a little like 1 ounce Mr. Black.
For sure.
And I have some accounts that keep it cold. I think it's better served cold.
I could see
even in
that.
the freezer.
Yep.
Same thing with Rumple Mints. You want to keep that ice cold.
Sure.
So it's so versatile. It doesn't just have to be espresso martinis. That is probably
Yeah.
our biggest sell with Mr. Black. But revolvers,
No, that's
like
a good
Colorado Bulldogs, mighty racers. There's so much fun stuff you can do with them.
That's a good thing to know. Yeah, because we don't carry it at where I work right now, but like, yeah, so I'm all about learning different drinks to make it in and like how it goes with it, because it's like you take any recipe, and for those of you guys that like love the cocktail part of this, I want you to know like you could take any recipe And depending on what kind of bourbon, spirit, tequila, whatever, it's going to be different. It's going to be a little bit different. So you got to find your flavor profile that you really like, and some you're going to like better than others.
You could even do that with something like a Don Julio Añejo or Reposado.
Yeah.
You could do that with another barrel-aged spirit.
I could see that.
And it would probably be equally as awesome. I'm sure there's a name. I'm sure I know it. It's escaping me. But a Revolver with tequila, like think of just a Spanish, whatever Spanish for revolver or something, you know.
Sure.
Or you could do it with, and we've even done everything from like Johnny Walker black espresso martinis.
Okay.
So a Revolver doesn't always have to be bourbon. It could be an aged tequila, and you could even do espresso martinis. It doesn't always have to be vodka. It could be Zacapa rum. It could be Kettle One Orange.
Okay.
It could be, it could be Don Julio Repo. Like everything works. I would probably more do the Don Julio Repo or Añejo more in something like a Revolver.
Sure.
And keep your espresso martinis. But a Johnny Walker Black espresso martini is awesome. It's a Coppa 23 espresso martini is fantastic. But my point is you can just play around with spirits. And that's what makes being a bartender and a bar manager so fun and so creative for me when I was one, is because you could just spend days in a cocktail lab and just going, hey, if it sounds weird, try it. Like try a Don Julio Añejo Revolver with chocolate salt.
Yeah, and see what that's
just
like.
If you don't like it, make it try something else.
Try something else.
Try it with, instead of Ango and orange bitters, try it with a chocolate and chicory bitters. If that doesn't work, try it with a tiki bitters. So that's what's great about the cocktail world is you're not just drinking to drink. We all like to drink, but it's way beyond, hey, let's just go out and drink to get drunk. It's like, no, I like like the older you get, you're like, I like tasting these spirits, and I like the
experience of it.
I like the experience of drinking a cocktail. Throwing back a shot of beer, that's great. That's so much fun to do, and that's part of it. But I really do enjoy when a cocktail is perfectly curated and made right.
Yeah.
How you get all the flavor notes of every product that's in that cocktail, not just a mixture of, you don't just taste all citrus. You're getting a mixture of everything that's in that cocktail.
Because this is a Halloween episode, we get to not only go off of these awesome, cool, like, what is it? What's the word I'm trying to say? Like creepy swamp cocktails, but we get to talk about one of my favorite pastimes and something that you are very passionate about too, which is horror movies and Halloween movies.
100%.
And this is so cool about that.
That's what's great about this show is there's so many of my favorite topics built into one episode. I love it.
No, it's going to be great. And so I had you fill out a little questionnaire, and because in the past we've talked a lot about like horror movies of the past. Like you've gone to like, you know, like the Halloween, like the horror Comic-Cons and like the regular Comic-Cons and the tattoo festival that has happened around here. And, you know, I mean, I've done that too. And I just think that it's really kind of cool because, you know, it's fun and it's creepy. And damn all those people that are like, why are you guys obsessed with Halloween now? Well, maybe you shouldn't have made it that fun when I was growing up. Maybe the 80s Halloween stuff in the 90s shouldn't have been that fun. Maybe the movie shouldn't have been that good. It's not my fault. No. It's not my fault you did a good job.
They don't make the movies like they did.
They don't.
They're not good. No.
They're not. No. And when we were talking about this, like, I remember, and I'm dating myself on this, and that's perfectly fine. But when I was a kid, I would go with my dad to the video store, and we would go and we would kind of like check out like the horror section. And like my parents were weird because as strict as they were, I could watch a fair amount of horror movies. And so like, I remember talking with you, we talked about like Freddy 3, you know what I mean? Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And I never saw that one. I completely forgot I never saw it because that was one of the only ones I was scared of, because on the back of the VHS tape was him as the worm, like eating the girl. And I was like, I don't think I can do that. You know what I mean? Because I'm like this little kid. I'm like, I don't know. I think that's like too much for me. Like, you know what I mean? I need to see something else, you know?
Patricia Arquette.
Yes. Yeah. Fucking, and I just watched that scene recently and I was like, dude, that's disgusting.
Yeah. It was well ahead of its time.
It's awesome. Yeah. So ahead of its time.
In my opinion, that was the best one in the franchise. I mean, part one, yes, it was great. It's hard to say part 1 wasn't the best, but I just think the creepiness of Freddy attacking kids that are already in mental hospitals, and they're already like going insane.
Yeah, they're already like.
It's like
already not a good situation.
It's like the total, like, he attacks you in your sleep. Mm-hmm. You have to go to sleep at some point. You can't stay up. So you can't really escape Freddy Krueger, and you're already in a mental hospital. And so it's just the brutality and like the clear sociopath of what Freddy Krueger was that makes that one even more terrifying.
Yeah,
you know?
No, absolutely. And it's just the fact of like the whole like non-CGI thing where you get like the real like slime and the real like goo and the real like stuff that they make and the plastic and the prosthetics, like it looks fucking bizarre. You know what I mean? And like Dan and I were talking about it, we're like, this still holds up to like the creep factor, which is what everybody wants out of a good horror movie.
And the one kid that made puppets, Freddy made his veins come out of his arm, and he controlled them, and he made him walk off the building.
Yeah, not cool.
Like a puppet. But it was like his veins, whatever you call these tendons in your arms, that those were essentially the puppet wires and
the strings.
I remember, I was probably like, I forget the year it came out. I was 9 to 11. Forgive me the year, whenever 3 came out. And I remember my parents just walking in going, "What are you watching?" It's just, my parents were cool, like they let me, but you could tell. I remember like
they're like, he's gonna have nightmares.
They were like, what is he in there watching? What's our 11-year-old in there watching? You know, and it was that scene when I was just like, that's so cool. Oh my god, this is awesome. You know,
they're like, if this is what we're watching, what else is happening in there that we don't know about? We're gonna have to deal with later.
Yeah. So hey, look, I mean. Hey, look how I turned out, Mom. Come on, you know.
Yeah, you're fine. You turned out great. You know what I mean?
I didn't get neck tattoos or anything. Don't worry about that.
No, that's so crazy. I remember the I don't know. I have a couple of different favorites, but I think one of my favorites is probably still one of the first ones that scared me. And we talked about this last time, but still, like I was watching the trailer with Dan the other day, is Poltergeist 3, and I was like, it's the mirrors, man. They're just so creepy. I was like, there was like 6 years in between where like I had a hard time falling asleep as a kid, and it affected me so much. And it was like now if I still have time, like every so often I'll walk by a mirror, I'm like,
And you
it's
think,
creepy,
and
dude.
The old man Kane is actually a good guy. You think he's the bad guy, but he's just wanting to go home. He just needs Carol Ann to send him home.
Yeah. And then honestly, she didn't look that great either in the third one too, because she was having all those like problems in real life. Like she had some sort of inflammatory disease. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's just extra weird on top of it. And Dan was like, oh, that's the creepy part of this. I was like, yeah, it's the mirrors. It's the people being there, turning around, and having a different reflection. It's fucked up.
That whole franchise.
And you never know when it's coming, man, you know?
Whole franchise is cursed.
The daughter in the first one got strangled by her boyfriend on Halloween night.
Yeah.
It's because they, apparently people think because they used real skeletons in the pool.
Did they use real skeletons?
Yeah, like real skeletons in the pool in part 1 when they're building the pool in the back. Those are real skeletons in there.
Was it cheaper than fake skeletons? I don't think that's a good idea.
Mr. Steven Spielberg on that one. It was a Spielberg? Yeah, I think he did do Poltergeist. I'm pretty sure.
Back in the day when they cared about, you know, and being creative with the storytelling, and they just, you could tell they were excited about writing a scary movie.
They wanted it to be authentic.
And now it's like, you know, they don't have any ideas anymore, so they're like, you know what?
Let's remake everything.
I don't feel like, that too, but like, they're like, if we do make a new movie, we're not creative people. Let's just chop somebody's head off and make it look real. Yeah. You know, it's not like there's no angle or creativity to that, you know, so it's more of that gore, blood. How bloody can we get it?
Terrifier 3 just came out, apparently. It's just gore
Did you
fest.
see it yet?
No, I've seen 1 and 2, but apparently 3 is just like gore fest. Terrifiers are great movies. They're just they're so awesomely, brutally disgusting.
Brutally disgusting.
Yeah, but in the best way.
In the best way. So Dan watched the Terrifier before me, and like we kind of came upon it in a different time where I was like, I kind of want to see that. And he's like, oh, I just saw this movie with this clown. I was like, wait, what clown? And
it's a scary looking clown.
Art the Clown.
Art the Clown.
Art the Clown.
And then so I see bits and pieces of it. I was like, this doesn't look that bad. No, I was wrong.
But you know what it is about that movie too is like I just feel like if you want to know what it's like to be actually chased by a fucking maniac with a knife and is going to kill you at any cost, watch a movie like that. It's what it feels like to be chased by a maniac who's going to kill you.
Yeah,
you know? That's what it's
I
like.
agree.
Holy
he
shit.
saws that girl in half upside down.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. Ugh, God. So, and it's the creepy part of it. So, like, I mean, babe, what was your... I don't even think I ever asked you this. Like, what was your, like, defining horror movie as a kid? Like, something that really stuck with you or something that you were like, that's fucking awesome.
Oh, man, that one's an easy one, babe.
What?
Halloween 1. I mean, there's a couple, actually.
What,
like
Texas Chainsaw?
Like, as far as being on the edge of your seat and just being terrified, is like Halloween 1.
That's fair. That's a good one.
Of course, The Exorcist, and like Jaws. Like, Jaws 1 was like that movie that just made, I don't know, man, just made your imagination just go crazy, man, and being a kid. Yeah. But those 3 movies, man, stick with me.
I legit don't know
Halloween
how
1.
I was allowed to watch Jaws over and over and over again as a small child. Yeah. I forget that it's a horror movie.
I mean, people were afraid of sharks, man, after that one. They
I
wanted
couldn't
to
go in the
water.
pool.
Seriously.
I saw some funny meme, and it was talking about, like, hey, if you're worried about getting fired from your job, like, just remember the mayor from Jaws 1 is still the mayor in Jaws 2 or something like that, you know? And you're like, yeah, you're like, how's that guy still the mayor? Like, do you mean the town re-elected that same mayor?
Yeah.
He let like 8 people get eaten by a shark. And they were like, yeah, re-election. Let's re-elect the same mayor.
They're like,
again,
you know what? It's too small. We don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
So this is it.
I laughed at that meme. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
pretty
hilarious.
That is pretty funny. Like, how's that guy still the mayor in part 2, man?
No, that's really funny. There was I like a lot of like supernatural like horror movies. So like one of the ones that scared me a lot was the lady in white. Do you remember that? It was a 1990 film, and it was this woman who, it was a fucked up story. It was like her child died because her child was molested, and she ended up like throwing herself off a cliff. And then her goal in life was to save other children that this serial killer was still molesting. It was a fucked up movie for like a kid. And so she would like chase him around, and like it was crazy, and like he was literally like molesting children and killing them, and I was like, that's some pretty deep stuff for like
It's
a child.
The Lady in White.
I think it's called
All
The
right,
Lady in
noted.
White.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was kind of crazy. It was kind of like that. It was kind of like. There was another movie that kind of came out at the time, which escapes me, but it was like The Night Circus or something like that, and it was kind of in the same realm. And I remember we watched it for like after school, like it was an after school thing with other kids. Like the teacher put it in. Yeah. It was like a thing we did. You know what I mean? The 90s, man.
My parents cared more about the nudity than the violence.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. My parents were just like,
are there boobs in that?
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, there's no boobs. It's okay. Well, but
You're
there is Freddy Krueger throwing a guy off the roof by his veins in his arm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Just
that's fine. No nudity, that doesn't really happen. Yeah, right. Yeah, 100%.
You know, it's so funny though. Like when you're a kid, man, you remember those movies because of the nudity scenes.
It's always the nudity scene.
The Silent Night, Deadly Night, when the naked girl was hung. Remember that one?
It's a
was
great
like,
flick.
Dude, remember that? I just know it because of the nudity scene. And then there was a one in that human. Remember that movie that nobody mentions, man? Humanoids from the Deep. You ever see that one?
No, I didn't see that.
Dude,
one.
that one's a good one.
Humanoids. You probably brought
Humanoids
it up to
from
me
the
before.
Deep. That one is terrifying,
that
man.
Sounds outstanding.
And it is great, but it had a good nudity scene. Also,
I always remember like when you'd get the TV and you'd get those. The lines that would move or you couldn't see.
Yeah. The squiggly lines.
Scrambled.
You'd call your friend and go, dude, come over. I think I saw a bush for like a second, man. You gotta come see this, dude. Like,
it was all scrambled and shit.
Like,
once in a while it would
dude,
freeze.
come over. I saw a nipple, man. You gotta come check this out, man.
I saw a scrambled nipple. You gotta watch it.
You would, because as a kid you were so excited. You're like, yeah, that was definitely a nipple. I saw it.
You're like, this is the only time I'm ever gonna see a nipple.
And then fast forward like 20 years, you see the movie unscrambled, and it was actually a guy's nipple.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you get so excited as a kid, you're like, I saw it.
No, it's so true. So zombie movies are like they used to scare the fuck out of me for years. Like it wasn't until like I was in college that I started watching zombie movies kind of on the regular, and it was Shaun of the Dead that really kind of changed it up for me, and I started laughing, and then for some reason I thought every zombie movie was funny, but up until that point I was not having it. It just stuck in the brain. But what did you feel the same way about zombie movies? Or?
I'm not. I see your Return of the Living Dead poster.
Yep.
That's a great one.
So,
but my favorite zombie movie is Zombieland. I love it.
Zombieland.
I love it. It's hilarious.
So true.
It's scary. It's hilarious. It's good acting.
Such good acting.
Not your typical zombie film, but it is a zombie film. So you asked me about a favorite zombie movie, and I put Zombieland.
That's it.
Definitely.
And this is for you, because this was from the last time that we talked about this, and I was like, I have the poster from this, and I don't know where it is, and this is it. And I was like, this is the movie that terrified me as a child. So of course I had to get the poster. I had to get it, and Dan framed it for me, and now it hangs on my wall.
Yep.
My wall.
That's amazing.
Show
poster.
the people, babe.
That is a great.
It's a great poster. So it's about basically about a bunch of punk kids that end up partying, getting drunk, and getting high in a fucking cemetery, and of course they all become zombies.
And I brought my creep show. I brought my fun little creep show poster.
That's
as
a
well,
good
too.
one.
I don't know if you guys saw Creep Show. This was a great.
I did see Creep Show. Did you get that at a Comic-Con?
I did.
Yeah, same thing with this. Yes, that's perfect.
Creep Show was absolutely fantastic. It still
Dude,
is.
Creep Show was awesome because some of the stories were like you could watch them, and then the other ones just blew my mind apart.
That Creep Show's the one with the Indian that comes alive at night, where
That's right.
the people rob the store with
Yes.
the old man, and that wooden Indian out front gets revenge for the old man.
Yep.
That they ended up robbing and killing the old man, and the Indian comes to life and ends up killing him. And then there's like the black sludge that chases the teenagers through the river.
So good.
Yeah, Creep Show was fantastic. So I wanted to bring I wanted a few photos to take just to kind of promote this show. Have some like product and have some fun photos to promote, but I also wanted to just show that off because I saw it at the Horror Fest and was like, oh, that's a great poster.
No, that's a great poster.
We
it's
also
perfect.
the same day we met Angela, Felicia.
Yep.
We met the lady that played the nun.
Shit, did you really?
She is so creepy, like just in general, like
Just her vibe or the way she looks?
the way she looks, her vibe, just. I mean, like I hate
she
to
does
say
it right.
She almost looks like a gypsy witch.
I can see that.
Like, I don't mean to like disrespect, but she's just like she looks like the nun. She looks like you look at her and you're like, oh no, that's definitely the lady.
And you're talking about the nun from The Conjuring.
The Conjuring.
Yes.
She played, and she ended up playing it in the nun.
Yes,
and
in the nun.
Wait, was that the movie with the creepy picture that the guy painted from inspiration on the wall?
Yes.
Dan and I always talk about that. He's like, do you remember the time that guy was like, oh, I had a dream and I'm feeling inspired, and he draws the creepiest fucking photo and then hangs it on his wall.
Then he hangs it on
and
the
he's
wall
like,
in a quaint, like, I don't know, sunroom.
My dog has very similar features. Like he has these white.
Yeah.
His eyes are like he's blind, so his eyes are silver, and he's getting old. So around his eyes are like these white circles, and then his face is black, like a nun, kind of. And one night I wake up and he's just looking at me from the end of the bed, and I'm just like, Shugs, you look like the nun, like just staring at me right now, bro. It's like 3 a.m. You're creeping me out, man. So, but we met her, and she was nice. I mean, she was a nice enough lady, but she was just very like.
She made her mark, man. Like that role is for her.
Yeah, you walked away from her going, that's a very uneasy like.
You're like, that's the reason why she got this role.
You probably walked into that audition and everybody in there was like, we're done. Let's go home. And she got the job.
We don't see anybody else for the rest of the day.
It was a feel-good movie of the year until they met her and they changed the script.
They were like, we're actually going to make this about really being a nun. But we saw her and we're like, oh, we can totally make this a horror
It was a
movie.
romantic comedy, a follow-up to, what is that? What was it with the Whoopi Goldberg movie?
Oh,
the nuns?
Ghost?
The Sister Act 3.
And they're like, fuck it, man.
Yeah.
Let's just fucking do the horror film, man. This chick.
Shit.
She was just equally as the vibes, just in person.
Was that at the Nashville Horror
Yeah, it was
Con?
at the same Comic-Con where we met Felicia Rose,
No
Angela
shit.
from Sleepaway Camp.
Do you have that? Bring out the DVD that you have, because that's fucking cool.
Hey, babe, can I try the rest of that drink?
Yeah, you could take the rest of it, babe.
I don't know where you're.
I'll sacrifice it.
Well,
Okay.
we got her to sign it.
Sleepaway Camp.
Felicia Rose.
Hell yeah.
This is
And
cool.
So nice. She played Angela in part 1. She was in Terrifier 2. She's been in a few other movies.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
she's in Terrifier.
too.
Okay.
So, and,
Where does she live, man? Did she live in,
I think she was West Coast. I think she was
Tampa area.
Seattle. I could be wrong. I do remember asking her that. Nope. I'm sorry. It was New York. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
no shit.
Yeah.
I knew
I
it
did
had
ask her
been
where she lived at, though. It was New York. She was so nice. They were so stoked that I actually had this booklet because
you didn't buy this at the Comic-Con.
No,
you
I bought
brought
that.
this.
I bought that for them to sign.
That's fucking cool.
And when I bought that, it was the day it came out at Best Buy when people still bought DVD. I bought that in like 99, 98. That's when it came
Best
out.
Buy.
But
Is that
they
like
were
even a
the
place
American
anymore?
Red Cross made them stop using it because of that cross.
Oh, that's freaking
So when
awesome.
I brought it for them to sign, even two of the people in the movie were like, I don't even have that. Yeah,
You're
there's
like,
parts.
wow.
So you got the collector's item, man.
I do.
You
Look,
know what I'm saying?
look at the cleavage. You could just tell
all the
it was just
cleavage.
all about like killing, stabbing, and titties, man. That's like all it was, man. Like,
Stabbing the
It's
titties.
the only
But-
ingredients you need back then.
But-
No, and I remember this cover because of this face part right here.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think that was one of the coolest things about like living in that time where you would like go to the store and like you just like look at everything and you look at the back and you'd be like, okay, is this what I'm gonna pick out to watch
Like
for the
a-
next 2 days
like
or
a
whatever?
like a movie gallery. Or
Yeah,
something.
like 100%. And like me and my girlfriends used to pick like the absolute worst horror movies, and it was always like girls in nightgowns, like half sexily dressed,
Yep.
like being chased by like serial killers or whatever, because that was maybe the only thing that was on the shelf aside from whatever at the time. But this is super cool.
That is, and
That's
two
awesome.
of the people in the movie were like, I don't even have a copy of that. So
You're like, "That's right, you don't."
they were really cool. She was very nice about signing it, and it was just cool to hear people that were even in the movie going like, man, I don't even have a personal copy.
Yeah,
of
that's
that."
fucking
So,
awesome.
I didn't quite realize it was that big of a deal until I went to that myself.
Yeah.
I knew it was all. I always kept it in good condition.
Right.
But now I'm even more like, oh no, man, this is like a total nerd, like horror movie nerd collector's item. So,
Oh no, yeah, that's super
yeah,
sweet.
it's a lot of fun. So.
Very cool.
What was did you ever have like a horror movie that scared just the fucking piss out of you when you were a kid?
Yeah, probably the Alien franchise.
Really?
Alien 1,
Okay.
Alien 2, Silence of the Lambs was always, I saw that at a young age. So
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs was more of like a psychological scare than like a jump scare. But
Totally.
Silence of the Lambs was kind of what, like not an obsession, but I mean, just like anybody right now, we're all into true crime stuff.
Sure.
I'm not saying I'm obsessed with serial killers. That sounds weird, but that's where like a fascination for
Well, it's the true crime stuff.
true
you
crime.
know?
That's kind
Yeah.
of where my fascination for true crime came about from watching like Silence of the Lambs. And, for a long time, I wanted to be like a criminologist growing up, but I just
Yeah.
never. We all wanted to be something that we never
Yeah.
turned out into. When we
Well,
grew
you
up,
never
but-
know. You could be a bourbon drinking criminologist.
Yeah, but
you know.
that's where the fascination came from. Is being
Sure.
like, man, what a crazy job! What an awesome job to have to like track serial killers and
Crazy
stuff like
job.
that, So.
No, that's true. That's a solid choice. Oh my God, this has been so much fun and
Absolutely.
so awesome. I know that we're probably gonna. We have so much more that we could talk about, but I think. I know you guys have stuff to do tonight, and because I could be here forever. But you have an event coming up for Halloween.
I do.
So why don't you just give us a quick talk through about that? Because I'm definitely going to be there.
It will be. It's in Nashville. I'm
Okay.
not sure everybody that's listening to is located. It's East Nashville at a barcade called Up Down. It's not a huge event like my one last year was, where it was essentially focused, but it's going to be a fun emo night with Diageo products with Mr. Black, George Dickel, Don Julio, and Crown Royal. We'll have some drink specials, and my friend Spencer, who teams up with Nashville as the reason for Emo Night Nashville,
Oh, yeah.
is doing a fun emo night. So it'll be at Up Down Barcade on Woodland Street. There's no cover charge. Just come out, have some great cocktails. There's Halloween. There's costume contests, great cocktails, and tons of like the music that we grew up listening to with bands from such
Hell
as
yeah.
like all the great emo bands, and like some of the drinks like Mr. Black will be like the Mr. Black Parade for My Chemical Romance and stuff like that. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it'll just be fun. It's just a fun get together, and where it's located is so centrally located in East,
Yeah.
that you can hop around. Like, don't
Sure.
feel you don't come to that venue and then you're stuck there. Come in, have some drinks, sing some songs, bounce to the next bar. It's Halloween.
Yep.
There's gonna be a million
You're going
things.
to be walking around.
Yeah, there's gonna be a million things happening. This is so centrally located that you can hit 5 or 6 different bars by coming out to it. So
I love
Halloween
that.
night, it's called Welcome to Your Emo Nightmare. Emo songs, great cocktails, costume contests, video games. you name it. I'll be there. Come up and say you saw this episode. I'll buy you a drink.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate you having me.
I really appreciate it. We got a couple of cool gifts that we're going to hand out to people. And check out the emo party at Up Down in East Nashville. And all right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Clayton, for coming out. Thanks for making a great cocktail.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
And we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks. Next Halloween.
Bye.
Awesome.
See ya.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in to Nashville on the Rocks. We're so grateful for your support. If you're enjoying our content, we'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to follow us on social media and give us a like on iTunes, Spotify, and all your other go-to streaming sites. Your feedback is super important to us, so please leave us a review as well. Thanks so much.